I want to bring on my guest, to whom I am deeply grateful, Dave Brett Wasser, the Executive Director of Cruelty-Free Investing. Thanks for being with me today. Dave, perhaps you could tell us, what is crueltyfreeinvesting.org? Why did you start it, and when did you start it?
I started it about 5 years ago. And the reason I started it is that I've been investing in stocks and mutual funds for, about 25 years. And about 6 years ago, a light bulb went on over my head. And I suddenly realized, wait a second. I'm investing in mutual funds, which own stock in the very companies that are producing the products that I'm boycotting as a consumer. What am I doing here? And I was amazed that it had never occurred to me until that time. I mean, I've been involved in the animal rights community for years, for 25 years, and it never occurred to me, where were my investment dollars going? I had always just thought that the only obligation, responsibility I had to be ethical was as a consumer. And then it occurred to me, wait a second, there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, if Tyson Foods had a choice of having you be a consumer of their products or an investor in their company, I think they'd rather you be an investor in their company. You're giving them a lot more money on that side than you're giving them on the consumer side. So I went online and started looking for ethical investments. I assumed that somebody else had done this. I looked for a vegan mutual fund, and I was stunned to find that there was no vegan mutual fund. There still isn't. There are now vegan exchange traded funds, which are similar, like you have one. But it was startling to me that nobody had done this. I just assumed, like PETA or the Humane Society would have done it. And so then I went looking. So I talked to my financial advisor on Wall Street. And I told him, I'm amazed it had never occurred to me before, but I want to avoid investing in companies that exploit animals. And he said, okay, that's fine. Just give me a list of all the companies that do that. Give me, it's probably a long list, but just give me. And I said, okay. I assumed that such a list would be out there on the internet somewhere. And so I said, I'll find a list like that and I'll get it to you. And I spent about 2 hours on the internet and was stunned to find that no such list existed. Nobody had done it. So I thought, well, there's a niche. Here's a contribution I can make to the movement. Why don't I do it? So I hired a few people to help me. I hired a terrific research director, Alicia Robb in Boulder, and I hired a great webmaster named Steve Zilko in Michigan. And together with the help of a few other people, we went through the business plans of every publicly traded company on the three major exchanges, the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and the American Stock Exchange. And we put all of these companies, there were about 6,000 of them, into a list, two main lists, a list of companies that do exploit animals and a list of companies which do not. And I can get into, there's a little bit of a gray area for some companies, and I can get into that later. But the point is that we found that about 1/4 of all publicly traded companies are actively involved in directly exploiting animals, either by making animal products or selling animal products, or testing, doing experiments on animals. 3/4 are not. And what we did, I created this website, which all of you can go look at. It's free to use. It's crueltyfreeinvesting.org. And there's two main lists, two parallel lists, a list of companies that exploit animals and a list of companies which do not. The good thing is that 3/4 of all publicly traded companies do not exploit animals. And the benefit there is that you can have a diverse portfolio without investing in companies that exploit animals. And they always talk about diversity. Diversity is so important, and it is. You don't, look, the worst thing you can do is just put all of your money into one sector of the American economy. That would be you could get lucky and make money that way, but that's not what anybody recommends you do. You need to be diverse, but you don't need to invest in every sector of the American economy. You can leave a few out and still have a perfectly diverse portfolio. And that's the good news. On cruelty-free investing, every publicly traded company is a clickable link, and you can click on the link and see how they exploit animals, and then you can make a judgment for yourself whether that's something that you can tolerate ethically or not.